Wrath of the Lich King changed a huge amount in WoW. It's gonna feel like a considerably bigger leap than Classic to TBC was, and even back in 2008, players were already voicing concern. The game is getting too casual, Blizzard doesn't know what they're doing. Nevertheless, it was hugely successful, and it certainly did add many quality of life features, many of which are still about to this day in World of Warcraft, but it did miss out quite a few things which came in later, in some cases many years later. So I thought, why not go over a few of the features which were not in Wrath of the Lich King, but would kind of make sense if they were in this version of the game. All of this is hypothetical, of course. Do I think they'll add any of these? I very much doubt it. Part of Classic so far has been recreating things as they were, not adding things from later on, even if it makes sense to do so. Though judging by the amount of comments every day I read about TBC players wanting dual spec, people aren't quite so adverse to changes from future expansions as they used to be. As always, many thanks to the members of the Patreon who support the channel. It really does make all of the difference. More on that later if you did want to join. First up is a feature which I had a really hard time pinpointing exactly when it was put into the game. This is cooldowns resetting on instance, encounter, wipe, or reset. So I think this may be the most diversive thing we're going to talk about today. It looks as though it was put in the game either during Cataclysm or at the start of MOP, which isn't exactly the most precise I could be, but people don't tend to upload footage of themselves wiping repeatedly on bosses from 10 years ago. What this would do is basically make sure your cooldowns are up after each failed boss attempt. This would affect 3-minute and longer cooldowns, exceptions for very long cooldowns such as Ankh or Lay on Hands. So what might be the problem with this? Well, in retail, you can, for example, heroism and spam all your cooldowns on trash, go to a boss, pull the boss, make sure everybody hits it once, that's very important, you have to hit the boss, and then run out of the boss arena. It would count as a wipe, so all your cooldowns and the heroism debuff will reset. However, in retail, boss arenas take some time to close. In Wrath of the Lich King, I went and tested, boss arenas close pretty much instantaneously, and there are plenty of encounters which just straight up don't have a way to reset them either, looking at Trial of the Crusader. So I don't think this would really change anything for guilds trying to speed clear or on farm raids. Remember, in Wrath of the Lich King, Heroism or Bloodlust now gives you a 10-minute debuff where you cannot benefit from it again, and it is raid-wide. And there's still a number of classes which have 5-minute cooldowns like Death Knight's Empower Rune Weapon or Warrior's Recklessness, to name two. Then again, there's no mass resurrection in Wrath like there was in Cataclysm. Wipe recovery and running back is an important part of raid time management, and you're going to be getting a lot more familiar with it as we get into the later stages of Wrath, so maybe this isn't all even a problem, and the game has a built-in time sink after failed attempts regardless. Being able to have the knowledge you're going in each and every attempt with the same set of cooldowns is a nice feature which I did enjoy from later expansions. Anyways, that's the first thing I thought of. Next up, at the start of Shadowlands, Blizzard discontinued a paid service and made it a free choice within the game. Yep, really, they deleted a way for them to get money, and it would make complete sense if this change was also brought back in Wrath of the Lich King Classic. And this was a service affecting the Barbershop, which is of course a new feature in Wrath which will allow you to change up how your character looks. However, in Wrath, it was very much only limited to that, and in Shadowlands you can now change, well, just a lot more than your basic appearance. Here's a message from executive producer John Haidt on why this changed. A long time ago, we had the ability for players to go in, it was actually a paid service, and change their character. Much of that is now in the Barbershop in the game, and as we were adding things up in Shadowlands, we realized, gosh, the only way you can change your gender in World of Warcraft is to go through a paid service, and we felt like that is not the right message. Now, I'm not expecting a full-on Barbershop overhaul to include all the customizations that retail WoW has, because it's considerably more in-depth than what we're going to get in Wrath, but despite it being an old game that's re-releasing, I don't see why this change shouldn't make its way back. Whatever you think about it without starting to get opinions, it's literally just getting something for free with absolutely no downsides. I don't see why it wouldn't be in the game. Next, Wrath of the Lich King is where collections and completionism really started expanding for a lot of players, and to accommodate this, Blizzard added a number of things, those being achievements and new tabs to help organize your stuff. Under your character, there is now a pet tab where you will find your mounts as well as companion pets. Both of these items when used are now learned and will be stored here, and they will no longer clog up your inventory or bank. Very cool. However, Blizzard kind of missed out on, well, about half of the things that people collect and wouldn't end up finishing the job here until patch 6.1 in Warlords of Draenor. This is when they added the toy box as well as the heirloom tab. The toy box is a new space where toys go once they are learned so they don't clog up your inventory or bags, just like Blizzard did with mounts and pets. I don't know why they didn't do it earlier. It helps organize them, you get more use out of them on a regular basis, and I don't know about you, but changing up my character's animations and appearance is something I've always enjoyed doing. As for the heirloom tab, well, do you remember how heirlooms actually worked back in Wrath of the Lich King? I'll give you a rundown. So you go and buy them from the vendor, they're then bound to your account. In order to use them, you had to mail them to whichever character you wanted to have them. Go to the mailbox, get them, equip them, and then go out and level. It's not really that bad, sure, this isn't going to ruin your day, but if you're an alt enthusiast, which I certainly am, it can just be kind of annoying for no good reason. Imagine if you take a break, come back, and you have to try and find out which character has your looms. Did you bank them? Are they in the mail somewhere? Or if you're leveling, say, a rogue and a hunter one day or the next, both of these characters want agility items, but only one can hold them at once. It's just all a bit messy and inconvenient. The heirloom tab from Warlords of Draenor was a big improvement. Here's how it works. You buy an heirloom and you learn it like you would with a mount or a companion pet. You open the tab, click the item you want, your character creates a copy that goes right into your bag, and you're done. No mailing, no finding items, and an easy way to see all of the heirlooms that you currently own as well. As for achievements, I think the system they had back then was fine. I am, however, kind of curious how they're going to implement it this second time around. So in 2008, there were a number of ways Blizzard could track what your character had or had not done. We had the real simple ones, as in you have an exalted reputation, here's your achievement for that. We have raid-related ones. You have Mark of the Champion in your bank, that's from Katie in Next 40, so you must have done Next 40, here's your achievement. To the more complicated ones, such as your character has the Champion of the Naru title. This means you did Magtheridon before achievements were nerfed. Therefore, you should get the Heroic Dungeon achievements for all the content involved in the Trial of the Naru. And then you'll have ones where you're probably going to have to go back and do the old content. Will the game know that you've captured a flag in Warsun Gulch, or that you've won a duel? Maybe the modern client we're on has the capability to track all of this. And when the Wrath of the Lich King pre-patch hits, everything we have done can just be translated into achievements. It would be nice if it did, of course. It would be great to get a talk from Blizzard closer to the launch on how this system will work and whether they can do anything different from how it was back in 2008. In fact, if you are a big fan of achievements and planning to go hard when Wrath comes around, I'd be a little unsure at this point on whether or not to actually start preparing, because we just simply don't know what Blizzard has been tracking in the background. Another feature I expect to be missing is one which we should already have actually, and something I just feel nobody really cares about anymore. That is the armory. I feel like back in the day you would always look people up there, the big names from the top guilds, to admire the gear, the dedication, to see what the new full tier set looks like. I remember having to link armory when applying for a guild or a pug or whatever it may be. Nowadays, there are just so many more ways to get information or check people. There are discords with sheets dedicated to simming different classes. Warcraft Logs has a summary of your past and current performances in raids, as well as showing your gearing. But this feature existed before Wrath did, and I don't think I've ever seen anybody even give it so much as a mention. It's just kind of been made obsolete by players with how people use and trade information now. I thought I'd give it a mention. I don't expect Blizzard to put any time into redoing an old armory, and frankly, I think it'd be a waste of time if they did. Overall, there isn't a huge amount of things I would change about the game, and again, I don't expect them to implement anything different, but it is fun to think about and speculate as to where the game could be made that little bit better. Time has proven that not trying to change anything is a bit too rigid and hasn't reflected well on the game as a whole, so it's better to have a bit more of an open mind and just focus on the things that could improve what we know will happen, rather than to imply any change will result in some kind of disastrous situation arising. In other words, what I'm trying to say is they're already going to sell a new boost package. You don't need a scapegoat to get angry at when it happens. Thoughts on any of these? Reckon they would fit in the game, or is anything just too far? And let me know if you have any others as well. As always, thank you all so much for watching and listening in, and I shall see you all in the next one very soon.